Hello everyone, it's the solution guideline for assignment 7. So today mainly we're going to be focusing on lookup functions. To be specific, we'll be talking about the match and index. So last time it was VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP, which we focused on. Today it's going to be these other functions. And after that we'll see some charts, a whole lot of them, see what those are all about. So starting with exercise 1, we want to solve these questions. So as usual, there's the snapshot that we'll always be looking backwards on. So first question, find the number of router items available. So if I want to try to solve this like last time, I'd say, okay, equals VLOOKUP. I'm looking for router. I'll choose the table. But when I'm choosing the table, I have to make sure the first column in my table has the router in it. Since the router is an item number, I'll choose here. And usually I might have to go 1 or 2 columns to the right. This time I'm just choosing the whole thing. Now when I come to the column index, it's the index of the column that has my information. But if now I focus on the question again, they want the quantity available for routers. But quantity available is here in this column, which is really to the left of my table. So that won't work. And I can't re-choose the table to include quantity available because, in case I didn't mention this, stress on this enough last time, your table has to start with where your key is. Like router is in the item number, so when I choose my table, I have to start with that because the lookup value will look in the first column. So if I continue writing this and I say like here 1, and then I'll say false. So I'm saying I'm looking for router in this table and 1 because 1 is my column. If I press this, I'm going to get an error. Why? Because I'm going to be looking for router in this first column, but these are all numbers. None of them are going to equal the router. So that's why you get this error. Instead, we want to use something new. We want to use 2 things actually, index and match. First, let's just see what index is about. So index, you give it the array, or in other words, you give it the range that has the information you care about, which is quantity available, so I'll choose that. Then you have to give it the row number, like where is the information that you want. Imagine I only have 1 column, so I have to give it the row of where router is. Like you'll notice here is router, so I should really get 5. But it's not 13, it's the row number relative to your table. Like you start counting from here, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you keep going, router is going to be in the 10th place. Okay. And if I type in enter, I'll get 5, which is the correct answer. But is it the correct way to do that? No. I can't specify 10 here because I've shown you this before. If router changes its place, it's no longer here. Does my number also change? No, it's now fixed 5 because I'm specifically saying the 10th place, which is not what I want. So I'll Ctrl Z to undo. Instead, I want to write a function that gets me this 10. So if index, similar to lookup, VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP, it retrieves the information for me. Like I give it a row, I give it a range, a column, and it retrieves the information. There's a function called match that retrieves the position of something. So what am I want the position of router. I want some function that will actually look for router and it'll tell me, oh, router is in the 10th place. That function is match. You can actually read the description. It returns the relative position of an item in an array, which is exactly what you want. I'm looking for router. Where am I looking for it? Well, I'll give it the range that has router. And I'll say I want an exact match. So by saying 0. So with VLOOKUP, we used to say false for exact match. Here we're going to be saying 0. Now I can close the index. I'm still getting 5, but however, this match function is getting me that 10 dynamically. What do I mean by that? Well, again, if now router changes, router is here. Oh, this wasn't router before. I forgot to change the whole table. Anyway, so if we remove this one, now we actually get 34, which is this other router. And its position is now in the 14th place. It's not in 10. Okay. So Control Z to undo all of that. And as I mentioned, this was something else, but I forgot to change it. But this actually is an opportunity to explain something cool. What happens if you have two routers in your table? Like what happens if you have two values of the same thing? As you'll notice by the solution, you'll simply get the first value. So I'm getting 5 instead of 34 because this is the first router you find. Okay. Now, one important thing about index, in the array that has the information, I only wrote one column, but I could have given it more. It won't help me, but I could have given it, hey, I'll give it the whole table. How about that? I could have done that. But now I have to specify an extra parameter for the index. Very careful here. I'm writing a parameter for the index, not for the match. The match is closed and done. All of this match simply gets me the number 10, which is the row position. So now I'd have to add something here like, oh, which column in this table, the blue table, do I want? Well, quantity available is in the second. So 1, 2, I'm still getting 5. But now, like, I had to specify the column because my table is pretty big. However, I'll Control Z to undo. Before, if you only choose the table as one column, you don't need to specify. Like I could put a comma here and say 1, but that doesn't really make a difference. Of course, it's going to be 1. I don't have anything else. Like you'll notice, usually with parameters, when it's written like this between brackets, that's an optional parameter. Sometimes you have to add it, but in this case, not necessary. But if you do add something like that's not there, like if I say 2, I get an error. Like I chose the table as just this blue part, but I'm saying, oh, I want the second column. There is no second column, there's only one. Okay, moving on to the next part. Is the most expensive item sold? You'll actually notice a lot of these, maybe these first 3 questions are pretty similar to last time, but like the table has kind of shifted. Like for this time, I can't use VLOOKUP for this question either. Like, is the most expensive item sold? So the starting price and the price received, they're right here. But the column for the yes or no is here, so it's to their left. So VLOOKUP won't work. Same thing, I'll use index. So for index, I'll only give it this place. Actually, let me give it the whole thing. How about that? What am I looking for? Well, I want the position of the max. What's my max? Now, so I want to really check where's the most expensive item. So it's either going to be the max of starting price or the price received. If you chose either one, you'll get the correct answer. But maybe one of them makes more sense. And I think the starting price makes more sense. But first, let's show you that it doesn't make a difference. So I'll use the price received, which is actually what I told my lab section to do. So I'm looking for the max here of the price received. And where am I looking for it? Also in the price received. And we'll say exact match. And where do I want it? So now back to the blue part. What have I written so far? Index has, and this is the table that has my information. Match is going to get me the position of the max element. And where is my information? It's in the first column. So I'll say 1 because of yes or no. The reason why I gave it the whole table instead of just the blue part, you might have guessed, I'm probably going to copy this function and put it in the next part, like in lab 6. But let's see, I get a yes. But what really happened here? I'm getting the position of the max element. So I'm getting the position of this guy, because this cell is going to have the biggest number. I'm getting its position. Then I'm saying, okay, in this position, like in this record, get me what value is written here. So either a yes or a no. To see if your answer makes sense, you can copy the match just to see what value it gives you. It's giving you a 35. which kind of makes sense. Like this is pretty down the list. And if I remember, we have about 40 elements or 40 records. So yeah, it makes sense. It's pretty down there. You can count in the opposite direction to see exactly. Okay, so this is if I had checked for the price received. And if I had done this, or if I had chosen the starting price instead, I would have gotten the same answer, because the starting price and the price received, like they're probably both going to be the biggest respectively for both categories. But why do I think choosing the starting price makes more sense? Because they're asking, is the most expensive item sold? Is the most expensive item sold? Well, price received, if something isn't sold, it's not going to show up here. Like obviously anything here that has a number is going to be sold. Like this is the price received. So when they ask, is the most expensive item sold, they probably mean you should check the starting price. But again, if you did this or this, it's okay. Because like the question needs maybe to be a bit more clear, but that's fine. So I'll just change it to the G column because that's where the starting price is. And you'll see it's the same. We'll get the same answer. I'll simply get yes. And if I copy this one, it's still going to get me 35. So here it was H, now it's going to be G, still 35. But again, this just makes more sense to me. Now, show the price if it was sold. And if we check the screenshot, they're saying 16,500. Now, it would make more sense to me if we wanted to show the price of the received, like this one, as we did the last time. Like, oh, if this was sold, we'll show this value. I'm not sure if that was a typo, but we'll just go with the snapshot solution. So they are saying, hi, if the price, if this biggest starting price was sold, show me what the value is. So we'll do that. Copy paste the whole thing. And since now I'm doing it for the starting price, I don't really need to change this one. It's still gonna, oh no, I actually do. So now, same thing. My blue table that has my information, I'm getting the max value. I want that max. So I'll say here too. To get, instead of getting the yes or no, I'm getting the starting price. I'm essentially, this is a convoluted way of just saying get me the max of this range, which is why I think they probably meant the price received. But that's okay. We'll just say what the snapshot wants. Okay. Like had it been 3, that would have made more sense. Like I'll show for what price was it sold. But we'll simply say 2. That's the cool thing about writing something like this that's kind of versatile. Oh, what do you want? Do you want to know if it was sold or not? I'll simply say 1. I'll get the yes or no. Do you want to know what the starting price of this item was? I'll just say 2. Do you want to know for what was it sold? I'll say 3. Because really what's going on, I'm catching the record that has the max, and now I can simply choose which part information from that record do I want. Which is really the whole thing about VLOOKUP, right? Or lookup in general. Okay, now we want to add sold for with the $sign, so we'll do that. Sold for, add the $sign, concatenate, you get this. But similar to last time, what if this was no? I'm still kind of getting the price, right? So here we'll say if this was yes, I'll just say this whole thing. Otherwise, I'll say it was not sold. Okay. So now if for some reason this was a no, I'll get not sold instead of just some value. Sold for, like again, it was actually sold for the price received, which is this much. So this should actually probably be here a 3, and we'll see the actual value it was sold for. But if this happens in an exam, just do it as the snapshot solution, or you could ask somebody for more information. Which item has the quantity in stock 25 and is not sold? Which item has quantity in stock 25 and is not sold? So this is what some of you confused last time. In this question, there's actually two conditions. They want something that's has 25 in stock and not sold. This is two conditions. They're not asking for two pieces of information. It's actually one piece of information. Which item? Like probably the name of the item or the ID. We'll check the snapshot. Which item, so one piece of information, has quantity in stock 25 and is not sold. So has these two conditions. Well, let's see. So quantity available and not sold. Two different columns have my information. And if we try to do VLOOKUP, if we try to do index and all that on its own, it's not really gonna work. Because like usually when we type these functions, we can only put one condition, one criteria in the normal sense. Instead, what we want to do is wouldn't it be nice, instead of having two conditions in two different columns, have just one condition in one column? And we can do that by adding an extra column here. So I'll say 2 concatenated with sold, and I'll auto fill this whole thing. Do you see where I'm going with? Instead of now like doing something where, oh, index, I want the quantity bigger than 20 or 25 or exactly 25, and I want no or yes, I'll simply now look for exactly 25 and no. Like this new column will have your information. So we'll say index. Now it's the same question as before. Which part has my information? Let's see the snapshot. Keyboards, so that's probably here. What's my row number? I'm not gonna specifically look for it. I'm gonna use match. I'm looking for what? 25. No. Where am I looking for it? In this new column that I made. Want an exact match. So now, if I find 25 no, I'll just use the same row number there. So I'm getting keyboards, which is here. This is the first condition, the second condition, and they're both satisfied here. Looking for 25 no in like one column instead of two different columns. Okay. That looks good. For this part, let me just copy paste it. Whoop. So copy here, just want to say sold for here 3. So in case we wanted to show the price received instead. All right. So that's it for the exercise 1. That's it for the lookup functions. So really okay, so you remember when I was saying you don't really want to change the table unless we kind of imply it or give a hint. You'll see in part 4, they actually do give you a hint. So sometimes it's important to read the instructions. So don't do the mistake that I just did where I just read these by myself, and I assumed that they wanted me to do the 2-column idea. If I actually check the hints, they actually tell me that you can add an extra column. Okay, now it's exercise 2 and really 3 and 4, where we'll see some different charts and see what we can do there. Now really with the charts, it's all about practice, right? As you'll see what I mean in a moment. Like let's read the exercise. Open the chart, Plot the received prices of all vehicles using 3D pie chart style 8. Then part 6 says format it as the snapshot, like pay attention to this. So essentially they're telling you how to create the chart, and then you have to get it as close as possible to the picture as you can. And there are so many things, right, to do. Let's just start and we'll see what I mean. So I can choose the whole, two ways we could start this. I can either choose the receive price, and then I'll press Ctrl and then select this other row and say insert chart, 3D pie chart. Could do that. Then they want style 8, which is this one. So make sure you click here for style 8. Or I could have chosen the whole table, pressed insert, same thing, and then chose style 8 as well. But the difference is with the first one, I'm only doing it for received price like they want. But for the other one, it's for all the values. And you'll actually see if you compare them with a snapshot, this one isn't really looking like it. However, I can go to select data and uninclude or uncheck starting price and quantity available. So now I'm only doing it for starting price. And if I press OK, you'll see now all three look the same in terms of the charts. And I actually like this other way better than the first. Like choosing the whole table and doing this, because now I can simply, whenever I want, I can change what I care about. Like, oh, if for some reason now I want it to be on starting price, I can just select that instead of having to insert the whole table from scratch again. Okay, so now comes the part. So this is essentially the first part, create this chart and choose style 8. Now comes the other part, which is just get it as close as possible to this one. And this is what I mean. You just have to practice as much as you can with this. Because even I like, there are so many things to do here, even I don't have them memorized. So we just start. So what do they want us to focus on? Title, fillings, borders, labels, etc. Rotation. So let's see some. Let's maybe start with this. The truck, maintenance, car. So these labels, you'll notice that I don't have the 26, 20, and 54%. So format data series. So whenever you want this bar to show up, you can click either anywhere on your table and say format whatever pops up. So this comes in. Then whatever you choose in your table, this will be different. So now it's plot area because I have the plot area selected. If I select the chart area, that will be formatted. If I select the data series, that will be selected, and so on. So I'll select these data labels. I want the 20% to show up as well. So I'll go to labels, label options, and I want the percentage to show as well. How do I know that that's there? Because I solved this before and that's where it happens to be. So it's a lot of this. It's a lot of trying to look for what you need. You don't have to memorize that it's there, but you do need to know where to look for. Like, I'm not going to be looking in the chart area to add the 20%. I'm going to be looking right here in the labels, right click, format the data series. I have these options. This first one has to do with filling, like changing maybe what the background is. Oops, chose the wrong. So I want to format this. So yeah, the filling what the background is. This has to do with other stuff, shadow, size. So the last one has to do with label options. That's how you get there. Okay, we keep going. So let's do this piece. So if I select once, I select the whole pie. Then if I select again, I choose a piece. Now how can I get it? How can I like remove the piece from the pie? Well, just click and drag it backwards. Now I want to make it look like this. Right click, format. So this looks like a pattern to me. And it's in the filling, right? Like if you remember, whenever you want to format something before, like say in the want to format this text box. In the filling, I can choose what I want to fill it with. I can choose a pattern, etc. It's all in the filling. Like we've seen this stuff before. And this in the picture, it looks like a pattern to me. So I'll go to the filling option. Right now it's automatic. I'll change it to pattern. But you'll notice the whole thing changed because I selected the whole area, the whole chart. Okay, Control Z. Now select again, so it's only this one piece, the data point. Pattern. What I want to go with, let's say, so you can just keep choosing until you find one that looks good. I think that's this one. We want it to kind of look orangey, so say this. Maybe reverse them. Say this is orange and this is white. Kind of looks better, but I think this pattern looks better. So you see, we don't need to have them memorized. We can just try it out. And this kind of looks best. Okay, so what I did was first I chose the pattern, then there's a foreground and background color. I just played with these until it looked like what I want. Okay, next we can work on the title. Or let's do the background first of the chart area. So I'll go to fill. Solid fill will give it the solid color. This is more of a gradient fill. So like you're starting from something and going somewhere. You could play with these and change the colors to get what you want, or you can see some of these presets. And I think we actually have one of the presets chosen. This looks, I think it's this one. But so it's cool. It's roughly it, right? But if it wasn't, if it wasn't one of the presets, you could have just chosen one of them and try to get as close as possible, like changing the colors and so on. Like double clicking on here, you can change the color to however you want. Okay, let's give it some border now. Right here, so in the fill, you have the filling and you have the border. Solid line, just increase its thickness a bit. Okay, that's about it. Maybe we made it too thick. Okay. Now, one important thing is some of you might not have gotten the data labels, right? Like if you insert the chart, say I'll use it using the old idea. I'll select what I want. I go to inserting the pie chart. You'll notice in this one, you don't get the labels, right? That's because you didn't select style 8. So this was a mistake that I did when I first solved this. I just tried to do it right away myself, and I didn't check in the instructions. They actually tell me to do it style 8. So when you don't do it style 8, you don't get the truck maintenance and car, so you don't get the data labels. So how could you add them yourself? Well, you could go to add chart element, data labels, and put them on the outside. Then you can choose them and go again to the label options and say something like, oh, I want the percentage and I want the category name, so they show up. But then they're not the same format, so then you'd have to go individually to each one to format them themselves, right? So make sure you read the instructions. Like actually what I did, since I didn't want to format each one on their own, like obviously this is orange because it belongs to this piece, this is kind of a darkish red, this is a darkish orange, and so on. Like the colors of the labels, they're dependent on the charts. Since I didn't want to do it myself, because what if I had 100 elements? I went actually to Google and I Googled, hey, Excel pie chart, data labels, I want them to be the same color as their chart pieces. And I got this, I opened this page that was kind of telling me the solution. And in the solution, they say you should choose style 9. Now, this might be an old version of Excel, but they did say to choose a certain style, and the labels will be colored as they are. So I went and did that, and I actually then checked the snapshot solution, and that's what they want. To choose a style 8, so now they look colored. So you don't have to do that yourself. What I'm trying to say here is you, of course, make sure you follow the instructions. read them carefully. But what I'm also saying is you could always use Google when you're studying. I'm not sure if it's going to be allowed in the exam, but you can always use it to reference. To if there's something you're not sure about, you can always use Google. Like for example, during class, for some reason, this one was always was always uppercase. So this title, if we want to write auction vehicle sales, and maybe we change its color to kind of look like that one, which should be a reddish red, a dark red. Oops, that's the background font. It's all in uppercase, right? And I wasn't sure in class how we could fix that. So here I went actually to Google, chart title, make it lowercase. I opened one of the solutions. This was from 5 years ago, and they said, right click on the title of the chart, select all the text, right click and choose font. Then you can uncheck something called all caps. So we can do that. Choose the text, as they said, right click, font. So there's something called actually all caps that we can unclick, and it'll remove that. So you can't know everything, especially when it comes to the formatting of the charts. Just you gotta know where you should look for. And of course, like, you first revise your lectures, make sure is the information there. Not like if there's something really specific, you can always use Google when you're studying. Okay, so I think this is roughly good. It's kind of the same thing. Now this actually changed its color. I'm pretty sure we had it in the opposite, right? This was white and this was... What? Why does it look like that? Okay, there we go, that's better. All right. Let's move on to the next one. So charts 2. I'll only focus now maybe a little bit on some of the things that I care about, or otherwise we could go on forever, right? Like, it's just about looking for something that you want. But I'll try to care about certain things that are important. So here, plot a 3D bar chart. So in class, some of you try to do it using 2D, which then messed some things up. So make sure when you select, did they specify what I want? So we can see it's the received price and starting price. They don't really want the quantity available. So insert. I want a 3D bar chart, right? I don't want a 2D bar. We want a 3D one. Okay, let's go to the recommended charts. So the bar, this 3-1, I want the other choice. So when you go to the more charts, usually you can either plot on car, maintenance, truck, or you can plot on starting price and received price. Like, compare these both. Here, what is your category? It's truck, maintenance, car. Whereas here, it's received price and starting price. We want the other option. So some things here, like, I care about, how can I change it to a cylinder? Well, you can choose it. Go to here, series options. Instead of box, do I want a pyramid? Do I want a cylinder? Etc. How can I make this these numbers? Well, you can choose this. Axis options. Right now, the major is 10,000. So actually, first let's change the display units. So we'll go here and make it thousands. So now it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, all in thousands. But the numbers, they're skipping here 5, 10, 15. It's literally the major is 5. But here we have it 10,000. I'll just change this to 5,000. And we can see the skipping is better. Make sure you write 5,000. Like, it's not in terms of the display units, it's just displaying the units. But here you actually have to write 5,000. You don't write 5 and Excel will understand it as 5,000? No. You'll see here it's like a gray bar. This is actually a lot of numbers. Okay, so Control Z there. And I actually might have skipped something if I'm thinking about it, because yeah, they said here you should do it in style 3, but I didn't because I didn't read the instructions carefully. Chart design, I want style 3. Okay, I think now really all that's left is maybe adding a border, and then we can copy paste for the other. And of course this one, hey, auction vehicle prices. Give it a border. That border has to have a certain color. Okay, so I think this is it, right? Okay, so we'll copy and paste the other one. The reason I'm copying and pasting, because I do actually remember from the instructions that's what we should do. Okay. So this second part says to switch the row column so you can actually have it focusing on the received price. But the way that I did it from the more charts. Copy your chart, change it to 3D stacked, add the labels as the snapshot. Okay, so now, so I already copied pasted it, chart design, change the chart type. Want it to be 3D stacked column. Alright. 3D. Oh, want it to be a stacked. Okay, this one. Okay. Now what do they want? Maybe we can make this slightly bigger. Like you'll notice in terms of explaining this stuff, there's not really much to say. It's just, oh, I want to do this. I'll try to figure out. I'll try to see what I want. And the important thing here is try to know how to look rather than exactly memorizing where everything is. Now it's actually should be going to 90,000 here. It's only going to 85. So we can fix that here. Access options. The maximum should be 90,000. Okay. We want the labels to show up. So like we did before, go to the chart design, add chart element, the labels. Do that, and then is there an easy way to remove? So we only want the values for all of them. But I don't want this format. Okay, so I remembered that we could actually, this looks like the filling format right now. I'm not sure if there was a way we could have added them right away without the filling, because we chose the style 6. So the reason it shows, or style whatever, maybe 3. The reason it shows up like this is because there was a styling. So we can go to no fill for every one of them to undo that. And then for the text options, label options, we can remove the category axis. And usually usually when you select one, it selects the whole thing. Not sure why it's being troublesome with me. And of course we want the font to be black in all of these. Could we do it like this? Yes, we can, without the bold, so it looks like the screenshot. So remove the bold and make it font black. Okay. Now another thing that I notice here is actually the skipping has to be 10,000 instead of 5,000. So we'll change the major back to 10,000. Okay. Missing anything else? That looks good to me. Let's just double check. Add labels as shown in the snapshot. Okay, so mainly they wanted us to focus on the labels. Cool. Exercise 4, combination chart. Okay, so I think this has one more cool idea I care about, which is the secondary axis. Plot a combination chart 6, so this time we'll do it with chart style 6 with line chart on the secondary axis. Go over here. I think we want the whole thing. Now, the reason we're going to be plotting on the secondary axis is, notice, quantity available, its numbers relative to everything else is pretty small. So if I actually insert here, we want a combination chart. So notice, if I don't click this secondary axis, this line is actually kind of being plotted right here at the bottom because it's so low. It never goes above 20, so of course it's not going to show up above the 5,000. So we'll plot it on its own secondary axis. Press OK, choose the type to look same, and just keep going. I don't think we have a lot of things here. So for the line, we have a marker. So there's line, there's marker, and then marker options to choose this box or the square, and we can increase its size. Why do I know it's here? I've searched for it before in the past, and this is where I needed it to be. We do want the labels to show up, so we'll say add labels, but we only want to add it for the line. So chart design, add element, data labels. Okay, since I selected the line, it's only giving me the data labels of the line. Had I selected the whole thing and said add labels, yeah, it would have added it for everything. But I'll undo because I didn't add it in the right place. Data labels, we want it right here to the right. Great. The chart title, so vehicle. I think we also have the border. Can make the font a bit smaller so it fits like the snapshot. Now let's add a border. Increase its width. The snapshot is kind of rounded here, or where could that be? Rounded corners is rather helpful. Okay, that's it. So it starts off, you like notice how now we're flying through combo. Maybe it took a few, I don't know, even I'm not sure if even it took a minute or two, maybe less. So at first it's kind of heavy because we're going through all the stuff, learning where they are for the first time. Then the second time it's slightly better. Third time is even better. Let's see how we do in this last one. So exercise 5, line chart, insert a line with marker charts to compare with the balcony. Something. We want the style 3. Okay, so we want a marker chart for the balcony cabin prices. So that's really important. There's a lot of prices, but we only want to do it for balconies. So insert charts, all charts. Probably mean this one. Yeah, that kind of looks like what we want. A marker chart line with markers, essentially. Okay, so we can press OK here, choose the style that we want. But now we want to fix it a bit. Let me just make sure if I do have chart code as they wanted it to be. Okay, this is stacked. All right, it's probably this one then. Okay. Add elements, format the markers, etc. You know what? Might as well do it since we went through every chart so far. Okay. So I'll start with the border. It looks like it's a different kind of border, right? Like it has sort of two lines. So we can choose border, still solid line, but maybe let's see this format and increase the width. Is this the one we want? Probably should change its color. This kind of looks like it. Let me just make it thicker so we can double check. Yeah, that kind of looks like it. So in the border, you could actually change compound type. So there are different types that we have. Let's go to the line. Again, we want those markers, so we'll go to line marker, marker options. We'll choose this one. I don't actually want the labels. Choose here smooth line and add the markers. Let's increase their size, change their color to white. Okay, looking more and more like the snapshot here. What do we have missing? Well, the axes look important, so add chart element. Okay, primary vertical. We also want the names of those axes, so add chart element, axis titles, both this and this. Okay. Call this one. Oops, why did the axes go away? So this one is prices, and this is date. Okay, that looks very similar. I think maybe the only thing that's missing is this white line for these. For some reason, it didn't show up when I created the column. But you know what you could do now, right? Like you could just Google the issue, hey, how can I make a bar appear above my x-axis? Something like that. You could look for it. So I actually remember in class or in the lab, some students maybe got it by default when they created the column, and some people didn't. Like how I did here, I didn't really get it. That's okay. I'll actually leave it right here. I'll try to look for a way to add that line. You should too as well. So maybe that's a good practice for you. Whether you got the line or not, see if you can find a way to add it or not. Okay, so let's see all these charts. Okay, don't think we have any problem. All right, so that's gonna be it for this one. Again, that's just how it is with charts, right? Like there's not really any way to explain things. It's just show you how we could do them. But it is important to understand how to look for things. Like if in case I didn't explain it enough, usually when I was trying to modify something like, oh, I want this to now look like a cylinder. Well, the way that I did that is I first had to click it and choose it. Then in the formatting, well, there's only three options. One has to do with filling and border. One has to do with shadows, glow, etc. And one is left, the series options. Like what could you want to do with the series? There it is. So it's just a matter of being comfortable enough to navigate through this formatting tools. And with a lookup, as usual, these might be better to explain, right, or easier to grasp, because here there is critical thinking. Oh, I'm not able to use VLOOKUP, I have to use something else, I have to use index and match, and how do they work together, etc. Unlike here, right? Where it's just a matter of, well, there's something I want to format. Where can I format it? How can I format it? Etc. So I'll see you in the next one, and good luck on your exams. Goodbye.